Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. Welcome to June. Can you believe it? Crazy. I hope y'all are making it through all these retrogrades. We, just a few days ago, began our fascinating journey into Mercury retrograde, right? So I hope everybody is having an okay time or a good time. If you heard the beginning of the last episode that I recorded, I talked a little bit about what this period of time is about with the 4 planets in retrograde and the full moon that we experienced towards the end of May. So I hope you are doing okay. I want to talk today about dreams. Not the kind of dreams that you have when you're sleeping, but the kind of dreams that you have when you're awake. For as long as I can remember, I have felt as though I was meant to make a massive contribution in this world, and I felt that I belonged on stage in front of thousands of people, either entertaining them or teaching them. And I still feel that way. While as a little girl, I didn't know what that thing was. I used to think of myself, I'll be a famous singer, and while I can hold a tune, I sure am no Mariah Carey by any means. But I've always loved acting, singing, and performing on stage. When I was in 7th grade, my family came to a school performance where I was the lead. The play was Tom Sawyer, and I was Aunt Polly. I had to memorize so many lines. I don't even know how I did it, but I guess my young brain was able to absorb whatever it is that I needed to absorb because I knew I needed to. I got to sing, act, and shine in the spotlight. And I remember hearing the story of my brother leaning over to my mom's ear and saying, "How does she do that? I could never do that." Well, it came naturally to me to be center stage. And while when I'm in a new environment, I tend to be a little bit shy at first, kind of quiet, it's only because I'm checking out the people, the environment, and the vibe, so I know how to step up into the mix of things. I've been through my share of hard times, times that really tested my resolve to either be destroyed by people or circumstances or to rise up, meet myself where I was, and then step up forward into the unknown. Trust me, I didn't like that shit, but who does? The universe and our souls have vastly different plans for our personal evolution than we could possibly imagine. Our job is to not only figure out that primary message, but also to learn how to radically accept what life offers. In other words, not arguing with the truth, and then become who we need to become to make the most of the shit show. In my book, The Intuitive Therapist, I documented just a few of those really challenging times. And while I was really figuring out everything by the seat of my pants in, well, pretty much every part of my life and in all of my life, I got my ass up off the ground and did whatever I could figure out to do to make my situation in life better. I've always been a stubborn-ass person, and in most of my life, that has kind of really served me well. Later on, as I was building a business and began to evolve into the therapist that I am now, the intuitive therapist, I had to learn to pivot a lot. The learning curve to grow a business for myself on my own accord was steep. No one gave me direction about how to do it, but somehow I got signs, and then those signs registered so deeply in my soul that I had no other choice but to seize those opportunities for risk and growth. As I look back on my life, as I'm sure you do at times, I'll admit that I have set many goals in my life and with the best of intentions. Now, did I achieve all of them? No. Did I fall flat on my ass more often than not? Yep. But somehow, somewhere, amongst all of the things that make me me, I kept going. And I still do. I fight, and I fight for myself. And I fight for my peace of mind. I'm a fighter. And when I put my mind to something, I am like a bulldozer. I keep going until I get where I want to go. I like that about myself. However, it can rub people the wrong way if they struggle to step up to themselves with the same kind of perseverance and commitment that I display. But again, I'm okay with that. Somewhere, someone is watching me, listening to me, following my strategies or taking my suggestions, and I hope finding success of their own in developing who they are. As you know, I'm a straight shooter, y'all. If you're a newbie, you're figuring that out. If you're a long-time listener, you figured that out. And Spirit uses me that way in my work. And I show up that way in my friendships, with my family, and in my relationships. Pretty much when I need to. There is a very soft part of me, though. She shows up more often than not. I think that's why the friendships that I have are long-lasting and solid. People respect honesty coupled with a compassionate tone. I'm in my 50s now, and my goals are vastly different than when I was a little girl or even 10 years ago. Back then, when I was little, I used to dream about being on stage with a large audience and being the center of attention. And like I said, I still like that. And while the actuality of that looks different now than being a famous singing talent, I do believe that I've helped many people around the world through an audience of one in my office, or 100 seating in an auditorium, hundreds of people who read my book or read my book, and thousands of you who listen to this very podcast. I'm still climbing that mountain to reach my goal of fulfilling my soul's purpose. And my God, it has taken me through twists and turns that I cannot even begin to explain. But I take time to catch my breath when I need to as I'm climbing that mountain. But damn if I will ever stop climbing or ever stop trying to get to the pinnacle of my soul's contribution to this world. That for me is a non-negotiable. I'll tell you one thing about reaching goals. You have to be committed. There is no I'll try or I hope to do it. Nah, that's just kidding yourself, my friend. Anything worth having takes hard work, and anything worth keeping takes hard work to sustain it. You have to be hungry for what you want, or else you don't feed yourself. One of the concepts that I use often about relationships is that there's an agreement and a sacrifice that we make to make relationships work, to meet our end goal. I recently spoke with a 21-year-old girl who was tearfully expressing how her boyfriend had just broken up with her. They share a son together. She said, "Janis, I tried to be everything he wanted me to be, and it wasn't good enough. He doesn't get me and doesn't get that I'm trying to do my best." It's hard at that age to stand on solid ground with yourself, isn't it? I remember. I didn't know who the hell I was. So naive. Some people who've had to mature early on can. They have to grow up quickly and figure themselves out and of what they are capable. But most of us don't experience the kind of tragic lives that force us to respond to the world beyond our years. So we screw up, act like someone we aren't, just to get what we think we want and to get who we think we want. Now, this sweet girl has to pick up the pieces from a broken relationship and an inadequate love and a poor choice of a man, a young boy, we'll call him, and be a single parent. Who plans on that? The one single piece of advice I'll just say I gave her many pieces of advice, but this piece in particular was special. And I said it to her over and over and over again. I said, you need to get right with yourself so that you can show up in the truest and highest expression of yourself for yourself and for your son. She got it, and she's doing it. What goals have you set in your life, and what have you had to sacrifice to get them? I hear people all the time, mainly women, who feel that if they marry a rich man, their life will be easy. But there's always something you give up. Maybe you're the arm candy, right? Maybe you lose your autonomy. Maybe you're controlled. Well, oftentimes the man loses respect for the woman because she doesn't have a way to provide for herself, doesn't have a sense of independence, and doesn't have a sense of self. The downfall of marrying a man or a woman with money without you having your own fiscal plan and your own backup plan is that you'll forever be vulnerable to his or her discretionary use of his earnings or her earnings. And God forbid you get divorced without your own financial plan, backup plan, or profession of your own. Good luck with that. You're screwed. Unless you get a great settlement, which most people don't. The horrible thing is that all too often, these types of women who marry for money are left high and dry, and they have to figure out how to fend for themselves. They get a low-paying job, downgrade their housing, or even go on welfare from living in abundance. Of course, not all scenarios play out like that, but many do, and it's sad. It is so sad that they're in a situation that they have to sacrifice their ability to provide for themselves just because they think their life will be easier if somebody they marry has money. Your sacrifices always catch up with you, my friend, in one way or another, and decidedly so in both good and bad ways. Every goal we set out to achieve has a price tag attached. When we look at our big picture, we must determine if we're willing to pay the price to follow our desires. I hear stories all the time about people who started at the bottom of a company, and then 15, 20 years later, they become the CEO of that said company. It doesn't matter how you start working towards your dreams, my dear, as long as you stay committed to your goals. I promise you, you can achieve them. The question I have for you today is, what is the price you're willing to pay? Every goal we set out to achieve has a price tag attached. There is a price to pay for everything in life. Success has a price. Having a family has a price. A life of riches and glamour has its price. Living penny to penny has its price. Self-employment has its price, but also so does working for a large company. Whatever way of life you choose to hold dear has its price. Nothing in life is free, even if you convince yourself that what you're giving up is fine with you. There is always that nagging feeling that will haunt you at some point, the voice in your head that says, because I really want that, I can't have this, and in the process, I might let myself or others down. But your dream has its price. Wherever your attention goes, energy flows. If you put all into your work, you'll sacrifice family time, relaxation, and perhaps joy. Your relationships might suffer. Your health might suffer. Your mind might suffer. You can't put all of your energy into your dreams and into everything else and be able to equally achieve it all. It just doesn't work like that. You can have parts of all of the things you want, but you can be uber successful, but you can't be uber successful in all parts of your life. It just doesn't work like that, no matter how many people say it does. Sorry to burst your bubble, my dear. Something has to be forfeited to be the best at the thing you want to be the best at. That said, let's look at the idea of success. If I took a poll of any number of people from 2 to 2,000, and if those people were truly honest, and didn't say what they think was the right answer about what success means to them, you'd have some vastly different answers among the group. Some people feel that money, status, and fame are the cornerstones of success. Others might say having a loving marriage and family epitomizes success. Still others would say good health, faith in God, enough money to pay the bills, and a healthy self-confidence is the equivalent to success. With every blessing comes some sort of form of sacrificing something. People dream of being famous. Then you have to oftentimes give up your anonymity. You become a ward of the public. And my God, can you imagine living your life out in the public eye in front of the whole world? We've seen it time and time again. It's brutal because there are so many people who aren't comfortable with who they are that they have to cut people down when they are on the big screen. I shudder to think about only a few people knowing about my trials and tribulations. And at one point in my life, I was in the public eye in the community here in Atlanta, and I went through something, and everybody found out about it. And what was interesting, and I've told this story before, I was embarrassed. But what ended up happening was that the response from people was so overwhelmingly supportive that my projection of embarrassment was really unnecessary. But I can't imagine having all of my dirty laundry broadcast over the 6 o'clock news for days and weeks at a time, in magazines, on the radio. I could not imagine. To me, that life would be a curse. Success is connected to what you value and how you perceive what you value. If you truly experience joy and meaning and make 7 figures doing that, and you're all focused on work, well, hell, wouldn't we all want to ride your coattails and do what you're doing? Maybe. In the most humblest of terms, success can never be experienced outside of you. Success, rather, the feeling of being successful, is all an inside job. And if you're right with yourself, then whatever occurs outside of you is irrelevant to who you are. Maybe you make a lot of money. Maybe you start a business, write that successful book, get married, have kids, or dress in couture all the time as a socialite. Honey, if any of that allows you to feel great, well, then great. But I can tell you that if you don't already feel whole and complete with yourself, any material wealth, social status, relationships outside of yourself will only bring you momentary gains and momentary pleasure. They are all temporary. Nothing outside of yourself can bring you the love, peace, security, joy, meaning, and fulfillment that being right with yourself does. With regard to your dreams, chances are that if you were to take an inventory of your life, you would clearly see where you have achieved some of them, even the ones that existed on a smaller scale. You finally made it to that country you wanted to go to. You got that job. You lost the weight. You got your book published. You made it on time. Those are amazing achievements. We can't all be president of the United States or Celine Dion's or The Rock, but each of us can achieve what we set out to achieve if we match our dreams with our real, true desires. And when that happens, nothing will stop you. Somewhere, somehow, some way, you'll find the big why inside of you that pushes you to work harder than you have ever worked in your life to achieve the dream that you have that means so much to you, especially when you feel like giving up. If you have a big enough reason why and a hunger to achieve that which you want to achieve, nothing will get in the way. You will absolutely have to sacrifice things along the way, though. There is no question. But you must make peace with that, and those sacrifices before you, and make peace with the sacrifices before you make them, so that later down the road, when you reach your pinnacle, you won't regret your decision to put the blinders on and then charge full steam ahead. Forget about anyone that discourages you or plays small in their lives. Do what you know is right for you to do to reach your goals. If in your gut, you know it's the right thing. Look, the dream is free. The journey is not. At some point, you have to make a transition from believer of the dream to the buyer of the dream. No dream comes true without somebody paying for it. If you want to achieve the dream, you have to be willing to do more than just imagine the outcome. You have to sacrifice your comfort, money, time, and energy. What are your goals? And what are you willing to sacrifice in order to move closer to your dream. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, when you're going for your dreams, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.